guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you a brief review of a book that I recently read. It's called Pistols and Petticoats, 175 Years of Lady Detectives in Fact and Fiction by Erika Janik. And this is a nonfiction book that I received from Library Theme from the Early Reviewers program. And I already wrote my review on it, but I just wanted to briefly talk about it here. So this book details, like the subtitle says, 175 years of history regarding female detectives both in real life and in fiction. It starts out by telling you how women were initially hired on as prison matrons to take care of female prisoners because, people recognized that female prisoners might behave better if they had female superiors looking after them. They weren't ever really considered to be solving crimes at that stage. It was more like they were just preventing crime from reoccurring by befriending the girls. And then eventually they worked their way up from being prison matrons to being on the prostitution rings and dealing with runaway children and things that were considered more like womanly duties. And then, it shows us how over a long period of time they worked their way up through the ranks and became detectives and then eventually captain and leader of the precincts and things like that. Of course, it took a lot of lawsuits and a lot of laws being changed and discrimination measures being passed. So it wasn't easy by any means. And then in contrast to showing the struggles of the real-life detectives, she shows you the female detectives in fiction. And once again, it starts out by showing you the creation of detective fiction in general, and how that reflected, the development of leisure time as work hours became less and how people had more money to spend on things. And so it started out sort of like the pulps magazines, and then it got more into books, and then it got to be a huge type of fiction that everyone loves now. And so they show us how at first women weren't meant to be doing detective work as a job. So the very first female detectives in literature were older, wealthy women who had families or who were widows, and they just did detection for fun. It wasn't a big thing. Usually it took place at some kind of country house where they were on vacation or where they were visiting a friend. And so it was just all very genteel and very, proper. And then it sort of got into the hard-boiled. As the hard-boiled detective became a thing, females became hard-boiled. And it was sort of like they just put all the male characteristics into a woman and added a skirt. There wasn't much difference between male detectives and female detectives. And then it shows the progression from that to now, where female detectives usually have a really active sex life and a lot of friends, and they have really fashionable lives and their own apartments, and they drive their fancy car and whatever. And it also talks about historical fiction detectives that the Macy Dobb books or the Bridie Fisher books, not Carrie Fisher, Bridie Fisher, and how those women, they're very glamorous but they are set back in the historical age, so they're more glamorous than they probably would actually have been if they had lived at the time. So I enjoyed this, but I did find it rather slow. It's only 240 pages long, and the last 40 pages are notes, so it shouldn't have taken me that long to read, but it took me over a week to read, and at the end it was like I was forcing myself to read a chapter a day just so I could get it done before the end of March. And I finished this at the end of March, and now it's almost the end of April, and I'm just now getting around to reviewing it because I just, I don't know, once I was done, I was just it's over. So I guess you could say it wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be. Even though it was short, and even though it took me a long time to read, and I found it rather slow, it was also really chock full of information, but in a bad way, where she was mention this detective and this detective and this detective, and it was like you never really got to know any of them that well, and you sort of forgot their names, and you couldn't really tell what the difference between them all were. And I also am not that big of a mystery reader, and so a lot of the fictional detectives she mentioned I had never read and didn't know, and so I don't know, I didn't connect to this book as well as I hoped. I think I went into this thinking women breaking barriers, which is something I really enjoy learning about. But there were so many women, and I didn't get connected to their story. I think this book would have worked better if Janik had either stuck to the fictional detectives or stuck to the real life history of female detectives, because having both at once, I mean, she was trying to make a connection between them, but really it just made you depressed because the fictional detectives had gotten so much progress before the real life detectives. And even in the present day, we have all these shows on TV with female detectives, but then if you look at the percentage of female detectives in police work, it's only 10 or 15% or something really low. It might even be lower than that. So it's not, I don't know. I just didn't find, I mean, I understand how it's connected in a way, but I also felt like there wasn't enough connection to justify making the book about both of these things. I actually really enjoyed looking at the notes because there are several books in the notes that were just about the history of women detectives, and I could see myself reading one of those and really enjoying it because, like I just said, I really enjoy learning about women breaking barriers, and so I enjoyed this book. I would recommend it if you love mysteries because you'll probably get a lot more out of the fictional detective part. And I really love this cover. I don't know, you can't see it that well, but the title is really pretty, and it is a very cool book. And there are a few pictures in it. You do get to see real life detectives, and then at the back there's some authors who write. These ladies are authors, and then this lady is from a TV show, a VU show. Anyway, that's all I got for this video. I hope you enjoyed the review. Let me know if you read this book or if I somehow made you interested in picking it up. I'll talk to you again soon. I hope everybody's having a great day. Bye!